Alright, now I just need to wait for people to start showing up. And disable that top chat shit on YouTube's live chat, because that is not how I like to do things. Well, let's see if people are gonna start showing up. We got a lot we're gonna be going through today, and I am not nearly as well organized as I would like with regards to it. But, I mean, can't expect the best from me anymore. I'm nearly dead. Honestly, I recognize that I'm seeking hope and joy through the eyes of others. By continuing to communicate like this, continuing to reach out on YouTube. I just genuinely hope that I am heard. People are starting to filter in. Hello, Celtic Rune Singer. Hello, Gypsy Guerra. I hope you all are well. We are going to be doing another one of my just rambly little streams that I do. Because, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I've gotten to be doing recently, isn't it? So glad to see you all here. Let me just make sure I've got all my tabs in place. Because, there's a lot to go through here. A lot of old stuff, a lot of new stuff. For those who weren't here on, I think it was Thursday, I've been digging into the QAnon, the Q Clearance Patriot story. I don't know what else to call it other than a story. I don't mean to imply that it's false or true by saying that. However, I do want to be clear that there are a lot of questions to be answered. And right now, one of the biggest questions I have is, are we chasing our tails? Because, yeah, what we're dealing with right now is quite bizarre. I mean, on the one hand, we have March for Our Lives, the gun control lobby essentially putting kids in front of our faces in order to play on our emotions and convince us that we need to get rid of weapons, when in reality the things that they're saying genuinely make little sense. And I'll probably end up discussing David Hogg at a certain point, because, you know, even saying David Hogg is enough to get your video flagged and viewed by Google and possibly taken down. And hey, I wouldn't mind having a video taken down. It'd give me something to, you know, validate my existence. Hello, Atakeen. Glad to see you here. But what this stream is going to be about specifically is the history that is behind the calm before the storm, as it's called. Where's my desktop? There we go. We're going to be going through what is called the Q map. This is a PDF that's continually updated by one of the Anons on 8chan, who is very fond of the Q story and everything that's going on with it. There's a lot of information in here, though the bulk of it is just a transcript of all of Q's posts on 4chan and 8chan. As you can see, 4 pages of the table of contents are dedicated to dates on which posts were made by Q. But what we're going to be going into instead is, we're skipping past all of this to, fuck, where is it? I was literally just looking at it and then I just lost it. It's not researching answering Q, it's here. No, further down. Sorry. Is Q a legitimate insider? And of course, they use this image. Well, this is a side by side, as they're called, of a situation. Come on, let me see. View image. Just fuck's sake. Terrible quality, but I'll read it off for you. So, on the 20th of November 2017, someone actually posted in one of Q's threads, Q, if you are reading this, get POTUS to tweet, wonderful day. That was, of course, the 20th. On the 21st of November at 2:45 p.m., about 23 hours from the time when this tweet was posted, Donald Trump made a tweet that said, "Today we continued a wonderful American tradition at the White House. Drumstick and Wishbone will live out their days in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains at Gobbler's Rest," referring, of course, to the way presidential dogs are treated with respect and kindness and given a liberal life, essentially, a free and happy life in which they're able to roam a large place known as Gobbler's Rest, for which there was no real context. There was no real, and of course, when this was posted, everyone took this as a sign that wonderful day had been posted because he said wonderful and days in the tweets. Of course, he says... And then, of course, later that day, yesterday morning, several of us asked Q to have Trump tweet something like, "Have a wonderful day." People chimed in, "Yes, have Trump tweet wonderful day." 30 minutes ago, after not tweeting for 24 hours, Trump tweeted, "Today we continue the wonderful American tradition at the White House. Drumstick and Wishbone," his dogs, "will live out their days in beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains at Gobbler's Rest." He did use the word wonderful out of so many other words he could have used. Wonderful was the main word that we wanted Trump to tweet. Thank you, Q, for another little confirmation. This is just one of the many confirmations they use, but let's pay close attention to it, though, because it's loose. In a court of law, this wouldn't be held up as evidence because it's circumstantial, but nonetheless, Trump doesn't normally just tweet this kind of stuff. It was very out of left field for Trump to tweet it, especially when he hadn't tweeted for more than 24 hours to that point. It's curious, is what it is. And it's these little hints that continue to keep the belief in Q alive. There are tons of these, actually. When Q posted, I gotta find the plus. Hold on, let me see if I can find it for you. QAnon.pub. And Donald Trump +++ tweets. Are you going to show it to me? Yes. So, 6th of November 2017, 2:15 p.m., Donald Trump posted, "My visit to Japan and friendship with PM Abe will yield many benefits for our great country. Massive military and energy orders happening, +++." And then, of course, we go all the way back to November 6th here. November 2nd. November 3rd, November 4th, November 5th. Okay, there was a lot that was said on November 5th. There we go. November 6th. There is a +++ tweets. There it is. "Nothing is random. Everything has meaning. +++. This was at 17:07 or 5:07 p.m. EST. This was at 2:15 p.m. EST. So there was about 4 hours in between there. 3 hours. Little less than 3 hours between there. And this is the next one of the facts that they use as confirmation. The next would be there was again a bunch of people demanding more proof, and Trump posted a photo on Twitter named Do It Q. Let me grab that for you. Do It Q. Images. Where's the actual image here? Do we have the circle image? Because there are versions of it which actually draw out the... Well, I guess YouTube or Google isn't going to show it to us, but here. So the file name of this file was doitquJAUIAAOWSQ.jpg, and I mean, there's entirely a chance that that was entirely random. That when it was uploaded to YouTube, or rather, when it was uploaded to Twitter, that was just the hash code used for it. However, if we go to Twitter, look at any random image. View image info, you get a random string of characters, right? So, view image. This one is DZKMLVUVWAA3F-N, which is a base 64 hashing of probably the image itself. A signature of the image. So the possibility that Do It Q is intentional is circumstantial at best. And at the same time, they use this as... here, let me open up Snip so that I can just quickly draw... The evidence they use that this is a Q is that these thumbs create a circle, and these thumbs create a line, drawing a Q. Again, entirely circumstantial, but as these things keep happening, more and more people are seeing that, you know, one coincidence is just a coincidence, two coincidences is weird, but when you get to 7 or 8 coincidences, that's when shit starts breaking down. Now, the plus 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 is probably the one that is most interesting to me. Just as Niboop in the chat said, that was the one that actually caught my attention, because the whole plus 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 thing really caught me off guard. Trump is, you know, for as off the cuff as Trump is with his tweets, he thinks about what he posts before he hits send. He wouldn't just include some random side information, you know, some missed characters. And he's not a programmer, so plus plus doesn't have any meaning to him. He doesn't seem like he's a big fan of George Orwell, so it doesn't seem like it's an attempt at newspeak. At which point you end up with, you know, the question, why did they all line up with their thumbs up like this? With one person squatting down, when he could have just been standing back here. There's lots of room for this photo. And yet, you get this Q shape. And of course, the way they look at it is, what are the odds that you could spell anything with 6 or more spaces? But you could read anything that Q says and that Trump does as confirmation. But is it random or is it human? Next up, we have a photo of North Korea showing up in a POTUS Welcome Home from Asia video. Someone close to POTUS put that photo in the video. Q asked many questions about North Korea and hinted that Barack Obama was in North Korea at that time. We still don't actually have any evidence, solid evidence, or rather court-supportable evidence that Barack Obama was in North Korea at that time. However, we also don't have evidence that he wasn't. Honestly, tracking Barack Obama at this point is strangely difficult. Barack Obama has become a very mysterious figure since he left the presidency. More so than other presidents. Most presidents end up doing book tours and speaking engagements, on very regular occasion to keep that money coming in, whereas Barack Obama doesn't seem to have needed that money. He has been able to set up a home in Washington, D.C., or just outside of it, within miles of the White House. Him, Valerie Jarrett, and it's been noted that Loretta Lynch spends a lot of time at that place too. And this has been worried to be a bunker of sorts, a holdout of the Seventh Floor group, or the deep states. Oh, that's an interesting theory. I've been thinking about Covfefe a lot, actually, Niboop. Want to hear my insane thing? Niboop says. Covfefe was Q's test run. It's how Q figured out where the super autism is. That's why he went to 4chan. Covfefe equals cobalts, vanadium iron, iron minus numbers, PubMed trans frog. The last words there actually confuse me. I might be missing something to understand that. But following that, we have, after telling us that the Rothschild plus there's actually the whole plus, there's 3 pluses. There's the single plus, which is the Clinton administration. 2 pluses is the Rothschilds, and 3 pluses is, I want to say, Soros? I can't remember what the 3 pluses were. Unfortunately, searching for plus apparently brings up absolutely everything. Here. November 7th, he started using these. House of Saud, excuse me. 3 pluses is the House of Saud. 1 plus is Soros. I'm sorry, my memory is really fucked up, and I fuck things up like that. My apologies, that's why I wanted to double check it for you. So we have the Soros. Soros is puppeteering in the United States. Rothschilds. The Rothschilds are puppeteers of the banks. And the House of Saud, the puppeteers of oil. Interesting. Is that what it is? Okay. Niboop says, the atomic numbers strung together, you can search on PubMed and find an article about trans frogs. All of those elements are transition metals. It is literally a frog meme. Aha! I see what you're getting at. Okay. But I want to stay focused on this part right first, just so we can get through the things that have been connecting Q to Trump and confirmation of Q's validity. After telling us that Rothschild are being targeted, the helicopter crash story at Buckinghamshire's Rothschild domain happened. Mission failed for unknown reason. 3 bodies identified, but not the 4th one. No news of Lord Jacob de Rothschild since then. Which is actually quite weird. I mean, this is one of those things that's actually deeply concerning because, well, the Rothschilds are central owners of most of the world's banks. They own the Federal Reserve, they own the Central Bank of Russia, most of the central banks in Europe. They are the City of London, essentially. And when Lord Jacob de Rothschild suddenly disappeared at the end of last year, you know, no one was talking about it, and we're talking about a person who was a member of the House of Lords. This is something that the UK, I think, would want to talk about quite a lot, and yet he just completely vanished. And then fact 5 is, of course, the Wonderful Day tweets. But Trump's Thanksgiving message, in which he used the words, as storms raged wild, their first act was to pray. He then said, we are doing something special, people are feeling it. And these are all phrases that, that Q has used in previous tweets. And then number 7, Trump retweeted and shared a post from magapill.com, a remarkably small site, all things considered, but it keeps track of Trump's accomplishments since he entered the since he took office. The day that Trump shared that tweet, the first news story on the main page was Q Clearance Patriots, a story about Q. After Trump's tweet, the website went viral for a few minutes and then went down, partially because they, like so many other people, use Cloudflare, and this led to, Cloudflare basically saying nope, which they often do. A few moments later, it was back up, no explanation, just a weird excuse from the host, which even the owner of the website found odd. Even the mainstream media talked about it going down so quickly. Sorry. Next, Q actually warned people about the New York City pipe bomb. It was blunt and of course it's gonna fuck that up. Blunt and direct time. On December 10th, he actually made a post that said, "Blunt and direct time. Adam Schiff's a traitor to our country, a leaker, national security, evil, TikTok. Hope the 7.8 million was worth it. Enjoy the show." Every time he says enjoy the show, it usually precedes a news story. This is one of those things that I find much more deeply enthralling than these individual proofs. Is these running proofs. Every time he says enjoy the show, there is a news story that comes out that is, well, remarkable in nature and takes up a news cycle. And when he said blunt and direct time, this was right before the New York City pipe bomber. I actually did a video on this. The man in New York who had built a very poor quality pipe bomb that exploded in his coat, but didn't kill anybody, but left him with severe burns. The story ended up fizzling. Oh no, this is New York Times. It's not gonna let me see that shit. Let's find. Yeah, here we go. So, for those who don't remember, here's the video of it. Let's just skip ahead a little bit. Yeah, this is the one. I'm turning off the audio because I don't want to hear it. I remember talking about this because the way the bomb went off, it was more like someone dropped a bowl of flour than an explosion. It was a very poorly designed pipe bomb, and it went off before anyone, before it was intended to. And the entire situation was horrifying. There were people injured in the situation, but nonetheless curious because it was later revealed that he was Bangladeshi. And if you take the abbreviation for blunt and direct time, BDT, God damn it. BDT, that is the Bangladeshi Tak, I believe it is. Yeah, Taka. The Bangladeshi Taka is what BDT stands for. And notably, this was just like immediately after the bomb went off, 12:23 p.m. Hello, MGTOW Warrior. And, so it was, the timing was very strange, and we ended up with people starting to read into his messages with a lot more detail. And then, so it was determined that BDT meant a Bangladeshi attacker. Think currency, think fireworks. The guy had a cheap pipe bomb in his jacket, and this was used as further confirmation of Q's legitimacy. Again, in December, Q posted a painting of George Washington crossing the Delaware River on December 24th, and then the DoD posted the exact same image. Like, you could actually go through and hash the two images and tell that they were created from the same they were the same file. And it was about 23 hours again, a little less than 23 hours apart, in which these images were posted, and the image was posted without any context. There was no text, there was no list of questions and topics that he normally does. And then on January 7th, there was one more thing that got people's attention. Trump posted a tweet that said his is turning out to be an enormously consequential presidency. So much that there has never been a day that I wished Hillary Clinton were president. Not one. Indeed, as Trump's accomplishments accumulate, the mere thought of Clinton in the White House doubling down on Obama's ... And then he changed it. He actually deleted the tweet and replaced and retweeted it using the words consequential. His is turning out to be an enormously consequential presidency. And if you take these letters, you end up with, well, one, you get a Q. He definitely added a Q to the message. And then if you take out all the letters that match, right? The N, the U, the A, the L, you're left with an S, a Q, a T, an I, and an E. You can rearrange those to spell Q ties, which, again, very, very, what's it called? Circumstantial at best. And of course, he has to clarify, just as everyone else does, any of the above facts would strongly indicate that someone with Q clearance and access to POTUS's Twitter account is definitely behind Q on 4chan and 8chan. That's circumstantially so. Do we have the hard evidence? I can't say for sure. But at the same time, we are talking about someone who, at least by their description, is trying to make leaks from the highest levels of secrecy in the world, or at least in this country. Q-level clearance, or, top secret. Top secret at that. But there are of course other situations. There's the correlation between posts that Q made about Saudi Arabia and the beginnings of the Saudi Arabian purge of the old Saudi family. There are correlations to be found about the pipe bomb. There are correlations to be found on many, many different subjects. Now, I'm really glad that they include that the author of this includes this section. If none of the Q predictions come true, then it's all a waste of time. Not true. The mere fact that someone with access to President's Twitter account is putting conspiracy stuff on 4chan is huge news. Either Q could be leaking, he could be trying to damage POTUS, he could be trying to discredit POTUS. POTUS himself could be experimenting. Q could be POTUS or close to POTUS and using us as real news. The mere fact that someone with access to the POTUS Twitter account is also posting on the chans makes this worth watching. Now, if we take all of this information with an absolute grain of salt and just look at the places where there have been semi-strong correlation, then we still end up with a situation where it is entirely possible that a person who writes tweets for Donald Trump is also doing their best to leak to 4chan and 8chan, well, specifically 8chan now, information that will be beneficial for digging into the story behind the story. This is one of the reasons that I find the Q situation so interesting. This is the reason that I want to dig into it and want to start explaining this stuff, but the fact of the matter is, it's not easy to get into right now. Anyone who's been on Poll or any 8chan board knows what a shill is at this point, and that's a person who is just doing their damnedest to distract from the conversation at hand, or make a statement that is blatant and disregarding to sow confusion on the boards. This is not, you know, a conspiracy theory. This has been admitted to by Share Blue and Act Blue. This has been admitted to by many organizations who make their business the business of running, what's the word? Well, misinformation campaigns on the internet, not only on the chans, but on Reddit. And Gab.ai has their own dedicated shills. There are just so many of them. And let's face it, Q is absolutely very easy to cause confusion in. Any of the Q boards, you can just go there and just drop a black pill statement. Oh, I believed in Trump and Q before this, but now Trump sold us out with the whatchamacallit, the omnibus bill. And that's something I actually wanted to spend some time talking about, because the omnibus bill is fascinating. Did you know that we haven't actually signed actual budgets? Not to the national scale that we did before Obama took presidency? Because that's what makes this omnibus bill so fascinating. While so many people look at this bill and say, "Oh, Trump has sold everyone out. He's just a tool of the deep state now," because look at all of the things in the bill that are being funded that no one wanted. But if you actually read through the bill, and while I haven't read all of it, I have read dozens and hundreds of pages at this point, you end up seeing that there's a lot of funding for some very bizarre things in there. Spread across a good 20 or 30 very disparate pages, you'll find allocations of $4 million here, $15 million there, $225 million here, $404 million there. A few million here, a few million there, all for the Office of the Inspector General and the Attorney General. Not the Deputy Attorney General, mind you. No, this money is entirely for Jeff Sessions and David Horowitz, the Attorney General and Inspector General of the United States, respectively. It's actually quite fascinating when you take into account that there are thousands, nearly 18,000 sealed indictments in the, that are waiting to be brought forward before a grand jury. And a grand jury has been impaneled on a lot of these. And a lot of people think, oh, these are going to be cases against the Clintons. These are going to be cases against the deep state, individuals who are corrupt and have committed criminal acts, treason, etc. But there's more to it than that, because a number of these indictments likely are related directly to the state of emergency that was declared in November, the human rights violations and human trafficking violations. So while a number of those are frustratingly, sealed, and we are not going to find anything out about them because it is one of the highest crimes to leak sealed indictments from the Department of Justice, what we are seeing is there is, as is commonly said, a stage set for many, many criminals to be arrested. Criminals within our government, not just human traffickers. Now, of course, if you know me well, you know that my interest in human trafficking comes from the fact that I was in the hands of human traffickers, or at least an organization that worked directly with human traffickers for a long time. When I was a child, I was in a military school known as Bethel Baptist Academy, And this was, well, Christian only in name. It was mostly a military school of sorts for at-risk teens. However, most of the people there weren't at-risk teens. They were just, well, they were taken from their families or convinced to be passed on by their families. And many of them came from the court system rather than their families directly. I personally ended up going there because my family abandoned me and there was no other place for me to go. I actually was a problem because even at a young age I was doing things that would get any person in trouble, would make any person, scared to have a child like me around. I was intelligent, but I was intelligent in a dangerous way, not in a successful way. And I was digging into a lot of things that were available back then. I was learning to make bombs, let's be completely blunt. And I was stealing a lot of information. This was the 90s. When it came to cracking other people's computers, when it came to breaking, digital breaking and entering, the shit was painless back then. It wasn't on the level of the 80s where a phone number alone could get you classified information, but it was pretty damn close. And there was not much that could be done with me after my family had basically abandoned me. So I ended up in this school which has connections to all of the court systems, and whenever an at-risk teen, as they're called, needs a place to be rehabilitated, they went to this school. And this school was repeatedly raided by the state troopers in Mississippi for child abuse, for sexual exploitation, multiple cases. And every time the Attorney General for the state of Mississippi would intervene and protect the school. I was one of their fucking sex toys. I don't know how else to talk about it, but it still haunts me to this day, and it fucks with me. It has left me a shell of what I could have been, but I'm not the only one, and to be completely honest, I'm not one of the people who got it the worst. It wasn't just American kids either. Kids would be shipped in from Canada. Kids who were considered to be too rebellious would be shipped off to a school named Agave, which, if you've done any investigations, Agave is an at-risk teen school in Puerto Rico that is known for its severe abuse of children. Now, why am I talking about all of this stuff? Well, the fact of the matter is, Donald Trump has actually fucking wrecked house when it comes to human trafficking. There's a thread on the Q research boards where they take stock of every case in which there have been arrests in these situations. Right? Under the state of emergency that Donald Trump issued for human rights and human trafficking, there have been arrests after arrests after arrests. 500 arrests in California, 76 arrests in Georgia, 56 arrests in California, 84 kids rescued, 120 human traffickers arrested in Myrtle Beach, Florida, 40 human traffickers arrested, and 500 people freed. I'm not sure where. At the end of last year, over 250 sex buyers and traffickers arrested on prostitution charges during staying in Houston. Phoenix police arrest 86. This list goes on and on and on. Trump has had arrested tens of thousands of human traffickers and freed thousands of victims of these human traffickers. There was a story in the beginning of the year in which people were freed from a shipping container in Washington because they had been captured. And this is one of those stories that, I mean, if nothing else, Donald Trump makes... I'm proud that I voted for Donald Trump for this reason alone. He's tackling something that... Hold on a second. LT, your farts stink really badly. Sorry, LT just let out a rancid fart. It's just shockingly bad. I was afraid she shat. But, for the human trafficking impact that he's had alone, this is absolutely amazing. And as we continue going down, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, 474 arrested, 28 sexually exploited children rescued. There's so many of them. Hell, if we go to the FBI.gov, they have tons of stories. LTY. Yeah, I know, right? Oh my god.
It smells like Easter eggs.
It smells worse than... it smells like a dog ate Easter eggs and then shat them. That's my roommate suffering the gas poisoning because we've had a gas attack. We are being gassed. Tadot, that dog over there. But yes, so many news stories that the mainstream media is completely ignoring. I mean, the mainstream media completely ignored the fact that Trump even set up this program. But, I mean, and yet another reason why I'm such a huge fan of the QAnon phenomenon is that because of it, people have been documenting this. People have been researching deeply, even if it has no direct connection to the QAnon posts, because of people's tangents that they've taken with regards to the whole QAnon situation, the whole calm before the storm. We've been able to, you know, cultivate these threads, these breads as they're called. Yeah, sulfur farts. Absolutely sulfurous. It's fucking horrific. Because documenting this information has been something that people have wanted to keep track of. Something that, to put it bluntly, gives people hope in the Trump presidency because of its accomplishments in fighting against human trafficking and the general nightmare that is being a victim of one of these people. And, you know, this is more of an interest to people who connect human trafficking with the Clintons, and yes, they do have pretty strong connections, especially when you start investigating the Clintons' connections in Haiti. I can't remember her name. Her name was something like Lynn Atwood, who ran the Children's Outreach Center in Haiti, which turned out to be selling children as sex slaves in Haiti. And that was just one single, you know, home out of dozens throughout the Caribbean that do this. Dozens that I knew people who were sent to or were sent to us from there because they had so much, because they fought back, essentially. If you fight back against these captors, they have prisons for you along the Gulf Coast, throughout the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. And you just get shuffled around. You're no longer a person because you're lost within this system. I know a lot of people, you know, they like to comment on me being gay, but my first boyfriend, I actually did have a boyfriend at one point. My first boyfriend was actually one of the saddest stories I can tell you about human trafficking. Because he was in a human trafficking group. They took him as a very young child. He was 9 at the time. And he was shipped from a home in Canada, an adoption home, to the military school in Mississippi, where he was basically taken in by the staff as, a special cadet, as they called it. And anyone with military experience knows how the term special gets used in military-esque facilities. And I find it important to note that the people that worked at this place, they were mostly, if not all, dishonorable discharges. So while they did serve our country, they also betrayed the upstanding and honorable code by which you're supposed to hold yourself, and were discharged dishonorably, and then found their job essentially, made a living instead, enforcing military code on children to a degree that would make people sick, because it wasn't like a boot camp. It wasn't like Great Lakes. It wasn't like Paris Island. It wasn't like Hollywood, Camp Pendleton, etc. Fort Bragg. No, this place was run like Gitmo. Quite literally. When I had gotten out and started hearing about the stories of Guantanamo Bay, my first thoughts were, that's the shit they did to me in Mississippi, where they would strip you naked and hose you down until you spoke, or just to torture you. They would leave you in punishment positions for hours and days at a time. They would have enclosed rooms with no ventilation, and the heat turned up to 100 degrees, 110 degrees, in order to sweat you out, and you would just have to stand there, and if you moved, you would have the shit kicked out of you. Not by the staff. It would be ordered that everyone else who is, forced to remain at this school, they would be the people that kick the shit out of you. The other cadets, your fellow cadets, would kick the shit out of you. And this kid, whose name I'm not going to say, I loved him to death. He was wonderful. I would be forced to box with him a lot. They liked putting me up. They wanted to toughen me up, right? So they would stick me in the ring with one of their best boxers. And I learned to box because he felt bad for me. He would give it his all, don't get me wrong. And good lord, did he break my jaw a couple times. But at the same time, he did pull his... He made sure to leave openings that I could see, and he taught me how to box. And we would fight when they told us to fight, and then when we had the chance, we would sneak off and find a roof to sit on top of together, and we would just sit there and talk. And he was also a frequent sexual assault victim. He was constantly raped by the drill instructor in charge of the facility. And it got to a point where he killed himself. He took a gun from someone else, one of the staff members, and he shot himself. And the entire barracks was shut down for like a few days, and the only people that were allowed in were, amongst other people, me, because I had to do a lot of work fixing up things like the electronics at the time, improve the camera systems. That's what they used me for. While everyone else at the school had to follow a very specific plan, I was essentially their free hacker. I would do all their computer work. I would do all their electronics and wiring. I set up the entire camera network that covered the place. And I used this to my benefit to be able to hook up a phone line that reached all the way out to the schoolhouse, so that whenever I was in the schoolhouse, I could actually connect, set up a dial-up connection to the internet and try and reach out. But I am the same person I was then. It's very hard to talk about things, and even then, I tried to talk about what was going on, and I couldn't find a group of people to listen. But back on the subject of Q, I apologize, I've gotten very far off topic here. There are a number of very interesting places where things have been basically confirmed by a mixture of the news and Q's posts. A lot has been decoded, such as stringers or code names. So Godfather 3 is in reference to Jeff Sessions. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is the CIA and Vault 7. Alice in Wonderland is Hillary Rodham Clinton. And Wonderland being the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Iron Eagle is the Rothschilds, the red shield with the Iron Eagle. There are a number of other connections that are made. Keystone is still a mystery. There are people who think they know what the Keystone is, but at this point we still don't have a clean answer as to what the Keystone or the map is other than Q's posts. Oh, alright, I'll give Elty a hug. Come here, baby. Elty, come here. Elty, here. Come on, give me a hug. Give me a hug. Come give me cuddles. You sleep farter. Give me cuddles. Come give me love. Allons-y. Allons-y. Come on, baby. Come here. Come here. Let's show off for the audience. Let's show off. There's my baby. There's my farty baby. There's my farty baby. She's sleepy. There's my baby. There you go. Alright. Now, farted because good lord that stank. Alright. Alright, back to the show. And of course there are a ton of acronyms that get used, however, not all of these are confirmed, right? So Adam R, that's pretty obvious. That's Admiral Mike Rogers of the NSA, someone I'm a huge fan of. JA is Julian Assange, AF1 is Air Force One, JFK of course is JFK. Antifa, you know that. KSA is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. BIS is the Bank of International Settlements. BO, Barack Obama. MB, Muslim Brotherhood. Media Matters, CF, Clinton Foundation. MS-13, the Latino Drug Cartel and Gang. CTR is Correct the Record. DJT is Donald John Trump. DNC, DOE, DOJ. FNF is Fast and Furious. For those who don't know, I'm actually probably going to do a video on that later. The Fast and Furious was the gun running scandal in which they said they were using trackable guns to try and catch drug dealers and weapons dealers in Mexico. However, what they ended up doing was just selling guns to Mexican gangs and arming them rather fully. RR is Rod Rosenstein. SA, Saudi Arabia, although that could be something else as well. Fed, Federal Reserve. HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton. HUMA, Harvard University Muslim Alumni. USSS, United States Secret Service. VJ, Valerie Jarrett. And then there are yet another long list of them. You've got places where there are overlaps, like JB could be Jeff Bezos, Joe Biden, or John Brennan. JC could be James Comey or James Clapper. There was another one that was confusing. CS could either be Chuck Schumer or Christopher Steele. there's a lot of overlap in these acronyms, unfortunately. However, this overlap could also be considered a manner of using a manner of presenting double information, double meanings, essentially. So, and that's something that has to be considered when going through the QAnon posts, because let's face it, he's trying to whoever this is either trying to cover his tracks because he has Q clearance, or he's trying to speak in a manner that is as vague as possible but incites people to think, right? He wants people out there researching, even if, whoever it is, they want people researching. They want people digging into things that otherwise are being ignored or, shut out by the mainstream media. And this is, and of course, we end up with pages upon pages of posts. Oh shit! I haven't had the thing up. My apologies. Let me pop that for you guys. Desktop. Going back to the thread though, more recent developments. I mean, yes, there have been the concerns about Q being fake. There's essentially two boards now. There's one board that is entirely dedicated to Q research and sticks with Q whether or not Q is fake. And there is, of course, the other set of people who believe that there is only a fake Q now and no posts matter. The most recent Q post is actually quite fascinating. Actually, wait, it has been archived, so I'm going to have to go down to up to the most recent. So on Friday, Q actually did update his trip code and made a post. Clock activated, red castle, green castle, stage 5x5, Y, Q. And of course he always signs his post Q, which leads me to believe that Q is over the age of 45 and didn't use Twitter much before this. For those who kept up with the Coach Red Pill situation, Coach Red Pill would always sign his private messages with CRP, as if that were necessary, since messages are coming from a specific account. So seeing Q do it does make me giggle. However, there was a lot of research done on Red Castle, Green Castle, stage 5x5. And if you've been keeping up with this stuff, one of the most popular theories right now is that Red Castle, Green Castle has to do with the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers, the Red Castle. This has been their logo for over 100 years. And they have an office in Green Castle. Although it's safe to say they have an office in just about every state, if not most major cities. So, yeah, so on US 231 in Greencastle, Illinois, there is a US Army Corps of Engineers office. The Conservation Department in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Well, that's fascinating. I didn't notice that before. You guys remember the Bowling Green Massacre? Well, apparently the Bowling Green Massacre might have a connection here, but I'm gonna have to save that research for later. A lot of people are assuming that the Red Castle, Green Castle has to do with the Army Corps of Engineers offices in Greencastle, Illinois, Indiana. So there, I mean, that's a very interesting theory, but there have been other theories too. Personally, I'm with a lot of the veterans who see Red Castle, Green Castle as a don't make me hungry, Celtic Rune Singer. That really does make me hungry. Red Castle and Green Castle could also be condition codes, with Castle being the White House, or Castle being the central command in a field operation, red being an emergency situation, and green being all clear, all safe. There's a theory that Red Castle is one specific group and Green Castle is a second specific group who have been activated. And then there's this line here, which is there's no real good theories on, except for the one that I've been trying to dig into, and that is that what we have been looking at is a 5-stage plan. Stage 5 of 5 being that they're finally moving on the 5th part of the stage. Now, what are the 5 stages? Stage 1 would be the election of Donald Trump. Stage 2 would be the beginning of the shit, now I gotta go look this up. I'm sorry. I don't want to go digging with my browser history on screen, so I'll just a second as I'll... There is a post that I wanted to dig up that will take me just a second to find. No. No. No, there it is. No, that's not it. Although, actually, that is of value to us, so I'm gonna keep that picture open. Come on, where was that? Anyway, damn it, someone spelled it out really well, and I just wanted to dig that up. Might be under new still. Damn it. Forgive me for this taking so long. There it is. Alright, so, Stage 1 is the introduction of a white hat leader from Donald Trump. Stage 2 is restoring the concept of the founding principles by attempting to eliminate and remove deep state agents. Stage 3, declare a national emergency. That national emergency was declared on November 24th, and that is, of course, the human rights and human trafficking emergency, which is declared worldwide. I feel like I should explain something. The reason that I bring up the national emergency status, the state of emergency, rather, is because states of emergency don't go away. The United States is currently actively in like 21, if not 30, states of emergency right now. And this is just the Wikipedia article of it. Let me scroll all the way down to the United States. Is it? No, it's IEEPA. IEEPA. International Emergency Economic Powers Acts. The International Emergency Economic Powers Act is a federal law authorizing the president to regulate commerce after declaring a national emergency in response to unusual and extraordinary threats from a foreign source. Now, there are very specific conditions under which this can be done. One, you have to declare a national emergency, and 2, you have to declare a scope of that emergency. The first one ever created was in 1979 after the Iran hostage crisis, which essentially gives the president the right to to seize any property of the government of Iran in the United States. And of course it goes on. There was the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in 1994, which allows U.S.-held property of persons that engage in or support proliferation to be seized. Iran again allows them to seize commerce transactions that take place with Iran. Colombia and Sudan, drug trafficking and political and governmental abuses, and of course Al-Qaeda related in 2001. That is the one that everyone tends to remember that George Bush put into place. Syria, which began in 2004, Iraq in 2003, Lebanon and North Korea 2007 and 2008, Yemen 2012, the Ukraine and Russia in 2014. Now there's one important thing to note. After 2011, a law was passed by Congress that required states of emergency, once they're activated, to be signed into continuation. The president must continue a state of emergency. Now, this does nothing to stop the states of emergency that took place before 2010, but for 2012 onward, the president has to renew them. President Trump has renewed them against Yemen, Ukraine, the Central African Republic, South Sudan, Venezuela, the cybercrime state of emergency, and of course he has his own, which he made, the serious human rights abuse and corruption state of emergency. And essentially what this gives the president is carte blanche into fighting against criminal actors, violent actors, etc. The one place where an IEEPA state of emergency can't be applied is inside the United States. The closest you can get is a worldwide application, which allows worldwide involvement to be addressed by seizing assets and properties held in the United States. This is why it has been so easy for the US government to arrest child pornographers, to arrest sex traffickers, to arrest human traffickers, because suddenly their hands are no longer tied. That's the state of emergency that this person thinks is stage 3. Stage 4, go after the low-hanging fruit, such as MS-13, sex traffickers, dope peddlers, and CEOs with corrupt schemes. You'll note that we're seeing a lot of turnover all across the world. Eric Schmidt left Google and Alphabet Inc. Zuckerberg is going to be leaving Facebook. There have been, I think, 55, correct me if I'm wrong, 55 senators and representatives who have said that they are either leaving, retiring, or won't be running for re-election this year. There's a lot of people who have disappeared from public view. And then there's what I find the most fascinating, the situation with Hillary Clinton. Now, do you know where Hillary Clinton is right now? Because I do. This is something I am an autist about. I tend to do my best to follow Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton around wherever they go, at least digitally, so that I can understand what's going on. And Hillary Clinton is in India. Fascinatingly enough, most people don't realize that, and she's not leaving. She's been there for some time. She's collapsing a lot, falling over. I don't know if you guys saw that video where she fell down the stairs and then fell down the stairs again. She broke her wrist, and because she broke her wrist, she's saying that her doctor says she shouldn't travel. Now, for anyone who's broken a bone, have you ever been told not to travel because of a broken bone? Probably not, because that's not a reason to be told not to travel. And yet, Hillary Clinton is doing her damnedest to, you know, the people around her are saying, oh, she can't travel because she broke her wrist and she's staying in India. I think there's a much different story there. I honestly think that Hillary Clinton is in India because the United States and India have a non-extradition treaty for all crimes except those that would be a, you know, very severe crime committed with regards to, you know, human trafficking, et al. It's a form of protection. She's protecting herself in India because, well, her husband is the one that made that non-extradition treaty with India back in 1997. It's very crazy if you ask me. It's definitely worth looking more into. But a lot of people are being arrested. A lot of people are being detained. A lot of people are being informed that there is a case against them, which means that their travel is being monitored. And they can't go anywhere without the government knowing. And then stage 5, as is being assumed, if you go through the bill, if you go through the omnibus bill, there is a huge amount of money being dedicated to construction and rebuilding of Guantanamo Bay. However, what they're doing isn't rebuilding the prison section. They're building new docks. They're building, $195 million. They're building new docks. They're building a second administration center. They're doing a lot of necessary functionality to turn it back into a naval base, it seems. It's quite fascinating, to say the least. And then there's, of course, the simpler definition of stage 5x5, which would be the stage is set, and it is all communications are loud and clear. 5x5 being radio signals used in the military to describe you're coming through loud and clear. We hear you. Fucking gardeners are outside, so I can hear that. I don't know if you guys can. You probably can't, but nonetheless, I worry about it. This post was actually deleted pretty quickly. Not pretty quickly. It was deleted about a day after it was posted. This is the thread it was posted in, where Q updated his trip code. His trip code is now BangXOWAT4Z3VQ. Also, cute that it ends with a Q. I'm pretty sure he must have sat around for quite a while trying to get one that ends with a Q. Okay, yeah, no, that is actually quite loud. Holy shit. And all the windows are closed. God damn it. I'm sorry about that, guys. But yeah. This is the mystery of Q, though. There is... good lord, that's fucking loud. Let me stick the microphone right in my face. I mean... it's very frustrating, though, because drawing these connections is quite difficult. There's a lot more to go through, but I'm trying to, with these short streams, introduce you step by step to the different parts of it before we start digging into the real meaty core at the center. Because there really is a very meaty core. And at the core of it is, well, to put it simply, a connection between the deep state and the Rothschilds, the old Saudi kingdom, or at least the way it was run before, and as well as a connection between Trump, the White Hats, as they're called, which are people who are I mean, for anyone who works with computers, the term white hat means, you know, a person who knows network security but uses it only for legitimate purposes. But in this case, it means, LT, your farts are like death. Oh my god. Holy crap, baby. That is... oh my god. But in this case, it means a spy or an operative who is working in the best interests of the country rather than against the country. And it is it's assumed by the Q group that Sessions is a white hat individual. And this is actually something I've come to agree with quite a lot. Because Jeff Sessions, the way I see it, he's done his best to stay out of the public view and instead has been focused on his work. His work has been crazy. The work he has done has been, well, filing for grand jury investigation or grand jury impanelments against people. He has filed with the DOJ, again, 18,000 sealed indictments against individuals. And whenever the DOJ is considered to be obstructing, there's two sides to that story. In some cases, yes, the FBI and DOJ are obstructionists. But on the other side of it, there are things that they just cannot release, such as information pertaining to ongoing investigations or information pertaining to an impaneled grand jury. Multiple times now we've seen in the FOIA requests made to the DOJ that this information cannot be released because of impaneled grand jury. A grand jury has been impaneled, and this is one of the larger threads of thought within the QAnon story, is that people are going to be arrested. The deep state is going to be taken on head on, and it's going to be done in a very legal manner. I really hope so, because there's one last thing that I wanted to talk about today. One last final detail that I find really important, and that is something that seems like no one else is talking about. The global changeover from the petrodollar to the petro-yuan. Yuan, however it's pronounced. As of today, I'm not sure what time, the petro-yuan is going to start being taken by other countries. However, we're also seeing a severe crash in the US dollar because of this. There are theories, and pretty solid theories, that the US is actually going to go back to the gold standard because of this. That we are actually going to stabilize our currency against gold and use this as a means to invalidate how people are going to move criminal money. And this is an amazing theory, although I want to see it happen before I confirm it. But essentially, the idea behind the theory is, with the global currency reset, which has been in the process of being accomplished for about a year now, people are going to think that, you know, the US dollar is crashing. But instead, the US is going to crash its dollar and remove the power from the Federal Reserve by forcibly merging it with the Treasury Department. And in the process, re-audit all of the gold in Fort Knox. Yes, I know a lot of people believe there is no gold in Fort Knox. However, I'm under the impression, based on the reports that I've seen, that the gold that we're holding in Fort Knox is mostly gold that we've taken from, well, Germany after World War II, as well as our old gold reserves, which were purchased up from Brazil and China between 1953 and 1979. And all of the And the reason it's not, why it's not being inventoried, I couldn't give you a clear answer on that. But I really do think that what we're going to see is a move to undermine the entire idea of fiat currency in the process of all of this, which is what it's supposed to be moving towards. However, at the same time, if we check the USD yuan, we can see that the USD was at its highest against the yuan through the early parts of 2017, then suddenly started dropping tremendously. Do I have a better chart for this? I guess we'll just use Bloomberg, even though I hate that. Now, here's the fascinating part. Despite the US dollar falling so tremendously against the yuan, the US dollar has been going up against gold. The US dollar is nearly at $1,400 per troy ounce. Troy ounce? Pound? Troy pound? I can't remember which one. USD gold. Okay, yeah, we're at 1355, and this is just from today. If we jump out to the 5-year, come on, you can see that while gold had been plummeting all throughout the last administration, and then jumped toward the end and then fell, it has been on a slow rise back up, which is actually crazy. And this trend is continuing. Gold is going up against the dollar, despite the fact that the yuan is the dollar is going down against the yuan. This alone makes me think that something very interesting is happening. I didn't show you my charts. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. So yeah, here's where we were in 2013. Gold was at 1550, and then it was a strong downward trend right up until the point, which is funny, right up until the point where Donald Trump started running for president. Gold was at its lowest at a constant downward trend right up until the point where Donald Trump started running for president. And then we had a huge initial boom, some doubt, and now we're climbing back up to the height of that boom. And gold is just going to continue to rise. This is absolutely fascinating to me. Because gold isn't dropping against isn't rising against the yuan. It's not rising against the euro. It's only affecting the US is the only place where this is happening. I really hope that the global currency changeover is something more than just a place where China is taking the lead against the United States. But if that is the case, that's a risk that's going to be a problem. Yes, buy gold. Although really, you should have bought gold 2 years ago. Buy a time machine, travel back to 2016, buy gold, put it in a vault, travel forward, make $300 per ounce. Profit. But yeah, I mean, there's so much here. There's so much to the QAnon story that covering it in one stream, covering it in one day is nearly impossible. But what we're coming down to is a situation where we have a lot of, well, I mean, the memo. You guys remember the FISA memo? This was something that was predicted by Q. The bombing in New York, the very cheap bomb, the pipe bomb that blew up in the tunnels and injured 5 people but killed no one. This was predicted by Q. There are just so many things, and my memory is so shitty that I can't fucking recall them at will when I want to, and yet I know it's all here. And honestly, I recommend going out and looking into this kind of stuff. I recommend going to the Great Awakening. I recommend going to Q Research on 4chan. 8chan. I recommend going to the Great Awakening on Reddit just to skim over and read what's going on. And be aware that a good 2/3 of the posts you read are going to be people arguing for the sake of sliding the board, distracting from actual theories and discussions. But once you learn to look past it, or if you start using filters, which is also beneficial, once you start getting to the people who are actually discussing these things, you'll see there's some brilliant people doing some brilliant work. There are plane fags who are tracking all the plane movements in the world. There are train fags who are tracking how the trains are moving and operating. There are code fags who are building systems, and I'm one of them, honestly, although I'm not going to say who. Building systems that allow you to view Q's posts as they come and distinguish between the real Q's posts and the fake Q's posts. Who are creating archives of everything that are going on and gathering all of the best information together. So to finish off, I want to read off one post that I found absolutely fascinating that I dug up the other day. No, that's not it. I'm not sure I can find it offhand. And actually, I need to go. It's about noon. And I have to do a job. I have to work. So I'm going to finish with this. I would like to thank you all for joining me. I'm going to do a quick read-off of some names in the chat because I love you guys so much. Thank you to Atakeen. Thank you to Gypsy Guerra. Thank you to Ghost Dog, Kaho-chan, Cube, Egregious Charles, MGTOW Warrior, Celtic Rune Singer, J-Will Series, Vladiro, Lunar Kitsune, That Reeve Guy, any other names in the chat? Bam Bam, Neeboop, and everyone else watching, thank you all so much. You are absolutely wonderful. Hopefully tomorrow I will be able to do this again, barring any unforeseens. I'll do it about the same time. And we are going to actually be looking into why LT's farts smell so fucking bad today. Holy shit. Holy shit. I need to open up some doors. I will catch you guys next time. Mwah.